Whether we agree or not, this has become our companion to our loneliness over the past 2 years. The one friend that has acted as the medium to connect, code, script, and much to our dismay, hundreds and thousands of Slack messages and emails a day. Communication has become an important part in our daily life, especially during the pandemic. Apart from feeling judged for improper usage of the English language, there's been numerous times I've struggled to find the balance between delivering a rather unpleasant message but in a cordial tone. And needless to say, I've also been on the receiving end of a few. But a startup that has been actively working to solve this problem with a daily average user base of 7 million is Grammarly. Founded by two Ukrainian founders, Max Litvin and Alex Shevchenko, they set about a mission in solving grammar and tonality in the English language. Before I move any further, I'd like to dedicate this video to the people of Ukraine and the founders of Grammarly. Obviously, what is happening is terrible, but I just feel like the greatest of innovations can come from the smallest of countries, and that should be a very big reason on why we should care for the people and why we should be sending our prayers and thoughts. And so with that being said, here are 3 unique marketing and business strategies by Grammarly that got them on their way. Chapter 1. The start. The story of Grammarly started with 2 Ukrainian college students working on their thesis papers. For Grammarly's founders, developing applications in the writing space was a high experience domain for them because they had a lot of thesis work to do. And one of the products that they developed, which was relatively successful, was a plagiarism app. Remember back in college when you had to write a final year paper for your project and you sourced from different articles and just essentially rewrote the whole thing? That was in fear of a plagiarism checker that was developed by the 2 Ukrainian founders. Yes, you have these guys to thank for it and making our life infinitely tougher. But with moderate success with this venture, they gained access to about 800 North American universities and colleges. And by the time they developed Grammarly, they already had a distribution strategy in place with contacts from their previous venture. And this acted as a boosted launchpad for Grammarly. After the initial few years of selling to educational institutions, Grammarly noticed something very unique. A target group that Grammarly wasn't even targeting in their marketing showed up in numbers and started using the product on their own. And these consumers were ranging from college students, professors, journalists, marketers, customer support professionals, and a lot more people started using the product on a consumer level. Now it's important to ask why this happened. And the insight here was, even though selling to colleges was a remotely successful endeavor, as a student, you are allowed to make mistakes. No matter how hard you try, you are allowed to make mistakes. And it's actually the teachers or anybody in the content business who are writing for a living, they were the ones who were actually very fearful of making mistakes with their writing. In fact, even for someone who is not in the content business, writing a flawed email will come off as a big embarrassment in one's workplace. And so with all signs automatically pointing towards Grammarly to move to the consumer side of the business, with over 300,000 people who are actively using the product and with a bootstrap profit, Grammarly moved into this next phase, expanding to the consumer business. Once the founders discovered that there was a whole other market outside just university students, they had to revamp their entire content strategy. This meant going more than just creating content and marketing materials for students in colleges to transcending industries and to appeal to a much more larger, broader audience. But there is a saying in marketing that if everybody is your audience, then nobody is your audience. So the question is, how do you strategize for every English-speaking industry in the world? And the answer to this question lies in content grouping with use cases. Grammarly knew that in order to gain the attraction of different diverse target groups, it needed to double down on specific use cases. And so for example, an office has different teams and different functions of writing. For marketing, it's copy. For customer support, it's emails. For project managers, they are the center of everything that happens in the organization, so they'll probably be typing a lot of emails. So Grammarly, rather than positioning themselves and catering to the entire office, they drill down for each specific department. Look at the specificity and positioning of these videos. I would argue that this resonates much more with the target audience rather than a generic make your team communicate better with Grammarly. So Grammarly took an industry, they drilled down each specific use case in that industry, and they targeted a very niche audience within that industry. Now while these act as pillar content, they are ably supported by microblogs on the website, and they are similarly grouped in tags with the same use case level distinction. And so as a customer support executive, with my pressing uncompromisable requirement of writing great emails, I immediately relate to the video and I click the video and I get aware about the product. Another leg to this, which I find incredibly smart, is Grammarly's strategy of targeting interchangeable words or confusing words and writing small use case snippets for those words and then ranking on search. Research shows that the site gets about 4 million visits just from 3 well thought out pieces, and a record of 84% of searches come from unbranded keywords. Which brings me to chapter number 3, the system optimizes by itself. It's no secret that for a product to exist in the market, it has to constantly upgrade to the market's demands. And the upgradation strategy usually depends on how niche or mass the product is. So for a product like an electric vehicle, which is still on the fringe in a country at least like India, the upgradation cycle would probably be through one-on-one interaction with customers because it is still a niche market. But for a product like Grammarly, which is all sorts of massy and mainstream, a manual strategy like this leads to all sorts of logistical nightmares. This is where the company's AI steps in 2 ways. Number 1, pattern matching. Number 2, inputs from users. Let's say that the system wants to learn the proper usage of commas. While you get multiple suggestions as you type your sentence, a team of researchers and machine learning engineers put together a huge data bank of both correct and wrong usage of commas for the system to refer from. And so after you write a sentence, the machine learning system compares your sentence with this data bank, which has both permutations of both correct and wrong sentences. It learns by itself on what the correct usage of the word is, and then it gives you relevant suggestions and corrections. This way, after setting up the initial data bank, the system learns by itself with minimal to zero involvement from humans. But of course, no machine learning system can be extremely accurate, and so additionally, the AI system also takes feedback from humans. And so while a lot of users hit ignore on a particular word, the system realizes that even though the word has been quoted as wrong in its dictionary, it automatically corrects itself based on the usage and then gives you the relevant suggestions going forward. Which brings me to chapter number 3, it works where you work. Today, after so much success and being worth billions of dollars, the company has so much features and offers so much services. It has a free website that you can paste your paragraphs at. It has extensions on Chrome, it has extension on Google Docs, it has extension on Microsoft PPT. Being a bootstrap company, the organization couldn't speed up on features and they had to take it slow because of lack of funds. And this is where Kunal Shah's Delta 4 theory comes in.
Anybody who has experienced a Delta 4 product or service will not go back to the old behavior. It is irreversible.
Initially, when Grammarly started, it had only one service offering. You had to copy your paragraphs, you have to paste it on their website, and then you have to get the paragraphs checked, and then you have to copy that again and paste it on your Word doc. Now this, as you can see, has a lot of friction to it. You have to do a lot of switching and the correction doesn't happen inbuilt in a place where you work. The customer had to make a lot of compromises as a lot of copying and pasting had to be done between the website and the document. But the product was so good to the point where irreversibility was created, customers were acquired, revenue was made, and then the company slowly for their customers started reducing friction. And today we see every extension and every plugin inbuilt to the point where you don't have to move a muscle. And this, in my opinion, is the perfect love story between a bootstrap founder and a paying customer. So I hope you enjoyed this video of how Grammarly originated from the small country of Ukraine. If you're new to the channel, this channel is a combination between business videos like this and more genuine feel-good videos that you see in the recommendations right now. If that's something that appeals to you, please consider subscribing. Please show some love and support, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.